Hello, my name is Stacy Magadans. I'm one of the reference librarians at California State University, San Bernardino. Today I'm going to walk you through a very basic introduction to APA style and point out some tools that can help you with it. The first of those tools is our library guide on APA style, which we call our APA Survival Kit. In the kit, you will find many links to supporting resources, the guides that we have created here at the CSUSB libraries, as well as other resources that are out on the web, for example, from the Purdue OWL and from the APA itself. That guide's address is libguides.csusb.edu/APA Survival Kit, all one word. All right. Parenthetical citations. APA uses parenthetical citations that appear in text, so you may also hear them called in-text citations. The parenthetical citations put short information about the thing you are citing within the text of your paper, and they are inside parentheses. The purpose of an in-text citation is to point your reader in as unobtrusive a way as possible to the full citation information that appears at the end of your paper. APA is an author date style, so within your parenthetical citations in your text, the format is author, comma, year. If the author is a person, you would just use their last name. Year is the year of publication of whatever thing you are citing. So here my author's last name was Ramirez, and here at comma, year. You don't have to be a person to be an author. An organization or an agency can be what we call a corporate author. So Pew Research Center also counts as an author's name. But you might be asking yourself, what about page numbers? I didn't see any page numbers in that example. All right, here's why. APA style strongly encourages you to paraphrase rather than quoting directly. Paraphrasing means to restate it in your own words, not copy it. Paraphrases do not require page numbers to be included. The rare exception is when you were citing something that was really long, such as a book, and it would be very hard for a reader to locate the thing that you had cited specifically if they didn't get a page number. But that's unusual. Most of the time, if you're paraphrasing, you do not need a page number. Having said that, it is permitted to use direct quotations in APA style when it's necessary. So for example, if the quoted material is a definition, or it's something where the exact wording really matters, maybe it's even a thing you're going to discuss, or maybe it was just a really memorable turn of phrase or a really effective way of saying something, then you can use a direct quote. And you must include a page number if you are doing a direct quote. If your source has pagination, of course, websites normally do not have page numbers. So it looks like this: author, comma, year, comma, and then P period, which is the abbreviation for page, a space, and the number, all inside parentheses. So here's an example of that. Blah, blah, blah was the interpretation which I have quoted. And here I have Garcia, comma, 2017, P period 26. Okay. Another way of doing this, you can work this in narratively. I've still put my author's name here, and I'm quoting a longer passage. Here I'm pretending that my quoted passage went over a page break. So I have done PP period, which is pages, plural, and then I've put the page range where my quoted material appeared. So let's back up a little bit on this. I've been showing you one author. That's pretty straightforward. And let me explicitly say that narrative and parenthetical styles of working these into your sentence, both of those are a-okay in APA style. So the kind of straight up bare bones parenthetical citation format is like this: thing that I am citing, parentheses, author's name, year. But you can also work this into the text of your sentence in a more narrative style, and it's okay to do that as long as you're being very clear about your author's name and the year of the thing you are citing. So here, as part of my sentence, I said research by Garcia, and then I put just the year in my parentheses, found that such and such. Okay, that is also acceptable. Once you move to two authors, if you are working the two authors narratively into your sentence, then you would write them both out, last names only, Garcia and Bartle, and I would spell out the word and because this is an ordinary sentence, right? If you're doing it in the parenthetical style, you would list both authors' names, but you would instead put in between them an ampersand in order to save space, because the goal of a parenthetical citation is to keep things as short as possible. Once you hit 3 or more authors, you stop listing them all. You just list the first one, and for the rest of the authors, you put in an abbreviation, et al. Period. Okay, that's an abbreviation of a Latin term, which you can see down here, that means and others. Okay, so once you've hit 3, you're just going to list the first author, put et al. Period, followed by a comma. Why does the period have to be there? Because it's part of the abbreviation. Okay, it's not part of the sentence, but it is part of the abbreviation. Put my comma, my year, close my parentheses, do my period. Here in the narrative way of doing it, I'm still going to say et al. As part of my sentence, and yes, al period always has to be there because it's an abbreviation. Sometimes you need to cite multiple sources for some fact. So several studies have found, okay, when you are doing that, you put all of them inside one single set of parentheses. Okay, you don't list them out all separately. You put them in the order that they would appear in your reference list, which is to say they're going to be in alphabetical order by the author's last name. So here is my first one, which is Liu from 2015. My second one is Mancha, so LM. My third one is Romero, so I have good alphabetical order. I separate them with semicolons, as you can see here, just to make the break between them a little bit clearer. And notice that the years don't have anything to do with the order. It's just the author's last name. Okay, now we've done in-text citations. We're going to move to the full citation elements at the end of your paper. We will go through some very basic elements for the most commonly cited items. This does not cover everything. But there are common pieces of information that every citation needs. The author, who wrote this or created it or made it. The date, when it was published or when it was last updated. The title, what it's called. And the source, where it came from. The first 3 here are fairly simple. But source gets a little gnarly because there can be many kinds of sources where material is coming from, and so there are lots of variations on that, but we'll talk a little about those. Okay, some format considerations. The name of this section in APA style is just references, not list of works cited, not bibliography, just references. As I mentioned, they will always be in alphabetical order by the author's last name. They are always double-spaced all the way through, and each entry in your reference list gets a hanging indent. What is that? Okay, that's this. Your first line is even with the margin of your paper, but any lines that wrap around in that particular entry, they will get indented ½ inch. Okay. Why do that? Well, because when your reader is looking for a particular last name that was mentioned in your in-text citation, they're going to flip to the reference list, and because the reference will start with that author's last name. It will be easy to see against a plain background without a lot of other visual noise around it. So let's start with that first piece. I'm going to show you 4 types of material: books, articles, an essay from an edited book, and a web page. So we saw in our in-text citation that we were only doing last names. In the reference list, you do last names plus first initials. You can do, middle name initial if you know it, if you have it, but you would always have to do first initial as a minimum. And you'll notice here I have 3 authors. I have listed them all out: last name, initials. But you're saying, you told me to use et al. Et al. Only applies in your in-text citations. When you are doing the full reference at the end, you're going to list them if there's 3, okay? In fact, you're going to list up to 20 authors, right? All 20 of them get listed, okay? What you do is what I've done here. You list as many as there are, up to 20, and you put an ampersand right before the last one. If there are more than 20, which is rare but does happen, you would list the first 19. You would put an ellipsis, that's the 3-dot symbol. It means something is missing here, or this is standing in for something else that isn't there right now. So after that 19th name, you have the ellipsis, and then you end with the very last author on the list, no ampersand. Notice here I have also a corporate author, and if you have a qualifier and a name like junior, senior, second, third, that goes after the initial. Next piece, year of publication. Again, that's usually fairly simple. It will be indicated on the book or article, or hopefully on the website. If you have a situation where you need to list a day and date, you do it in this format: year, comma, month, day. It is possible for there to be variations like year, comma, season. For example, some journals publish summer, spring, winter, fall issues, but particularly on many web pages, there is no date at all, nothing indicating when it was originally published or most recently updated. So for that, you put N period D period, which is the abbreviation for no date, inside parentheses and followed by a period. All right, next piece will be title, and so we need to talk about title case versus sentence case. Title case is where all of your important words are capitalized. The only words you wouldn't capitalize would be small things like in, of, by, for, the, and so on. Sentence case is like writing out a sentence. Usually only the first word will be capitalized, as well as any proper nouns like names of countries, United States, or names of people. In this case where you have a title and subtitle with a colon, you do capitalize that first word after the colon because it's as if it were starting a new sentence. So the rule in APA style is only journal titles and journal-like things like magazines or newspapers. Journal titles are always in title case. So are full website titles. That is not the same as a plain old web page title. Okay, so most of the time what you're going to be dealing with is only journal titles being in title case. Everything else, the article title, the essay title, the book title, the title of the web page, all of those things are in sentence case. So here's some examples. Here's a book title, and it does have a subtitle. Book titles are in sentence case, and they are in italics. Okay, always followed by a period. Web page titles are in sentence case and they are also in italics. So this is a plain old web page. Okay, we're not talking about complete websites. Notice my article titles, also in sentence case, but no italicized, and also no quotation marks. If you're thinking quotation marks should be around the article, that's a different style. That's MLA style. Okay, now we're getting into some special considerations about books. Books sometimes have editions, so if your book has gone through multiple editions, you need to indicate which one you consulted. So here my example has second edition. You put it inside parentheses after the book title. The abbreviation for edition is ED period. And then I'm closing the parentheses on my unit here, and I'm following this with a period. For an essay in an edited book, okay, these are a little bit odd. It's fairly common in the social sciences for folks to publish groups of essays that have been gathered together in a single book. So each essay is basically a chapter in the book. They're probably all written by different people, but then there was probably another person called the editor who gathered all of those essays together and put them into one book. Okay, so for an essay in an edited book, you actually have a couple of authors. You have the author of the essay itself, and then you have what's called an editor. So here's how you indicate that. First, I have my information about the essay, and then I say in with a capital I on the in, and then I put the editor of the book. Their name is not inverted. It's just first initial period, last name. After the editor's name, I put an abbreviation for editor, and that is capital ED period. I put that inside parentheses. Notice the difference. This one is lowercase, that one's uppercase. I have a comma, and then I put the title of the entire book, which my essay came from. That is in the regular way you do book titles. It is sentence case and italicized. Then I put, after that, the page numbers where my chapter or essay appeared. That's inside parentheses. It's PP period, which remember I said is the abbreviation for pages, and then the page range, and I end all that with a period. All right, next piece. This is another part of the where it came from, the source piece. For books, you would put a publisher. So for this one, I have Pearson Education as my publisher. You do not need the location. So you don't put New York, London, whatever. That was an older version of the style. Now you just need the publisher's name. I did the same here on my edited book. Okay. For articles, things are a little different. Where did it come from? Where was it published? Is the name of the journal. So here I have the title of my journal and a comma and the volume number. All of that is italicized, and my journal title is in title case. So this letter is capitalized because it's in title case. You may have noticed the ampersand. The ampersand is there because that's how this journal writes out their title. They use an ampersand. If they had chosen to spell it out as AND, that's how I would put it here. Okay, you're going to follow whatever practice they do, but make sure that it's in title case. Once you hit the end of the volume number, your italics stop. You then have inside parentheses the issue number of your journal. That's followed by a comma. Then you have the page range of where your article appeared in that journal, and you end all of that with a period. And if you're wondering why down here does it get PP period and inside parentheses, but it doesn't up here, I can't tell you that. That's the way that APA decided to do it. For a website, the where it came from piece, may include an entire web site. So the web page that I was looking at has a title, Chronic Pain, but it's part of a bigger site that has many, many pages in it, and the site has a very clear name, which is Medline Plus. Now, your example of any particular web page that you are citing might not have come from an identifiable larger website. Not all of them do that. But if they do, this is how you list it. It is in title case, so I have two words, both of them are capitalized, and it is not in italics. The italics are reserved for just the web page, but this here is the entire website. All right, another piece we need to talk about, the DOI, or Digital Object Identifier. That is a unique alphanumerical string for usually put on articles, although you may see them on books and book chapters. It is meant to identify the authoritative version of that article out on the web. Not all items have gotten DOIs because DOIs cost money. You have to register them. But if you have it, you have to list it. So the display of the DOI can look, slightly different when you're just looking at the article, but when you put it in your citation list, it must follow this format. You put this stem on it, this web address with doi.org and a slash, and after that slash, you paste whatever the DOI is. So when you have that on your article reference, this is what it looks like, right? It'll look like a URL because that's what it is. If your word processor breaks it on a new line, that's fine. Just leave it however your word processor does it. And do not put a period at the end of it. Why? Because your word processor may interpret the period as being part of the URL, the web address, and that would break it. You want the URL to be a functional one. When you have a web page, of course you don't have a DOI, you just have the web page's address, its URL, and so you would just copy and paste that. But again, don't put a period at the end of it. All right, and that's how it looks when it's all finished. Here are my examples, properly double-spaced with hanging indents, and they are in alphabetical order by the author's last name. There's one last tool I want to show you. Most of the library's research tools, our research databases, have helpers that will help you format your citations. So here I'm in OneSearch looking at an article, and up at the top, when I click into the record, I have this little option that says citation. It has quotation marks. That's often how they're labeled. So when I click that little icon, it will take the information from this page and put it into a variety of different styles. But here is APA style. And it says on it, automatically generated citations may contain errors. This is because all that this is doing is grabbing the data that it sees on the page here and stuffing it into a template, which is fine as long as the data is totally clean. And in this case, it is not. Everything is looking really good up until we hit here. So why was that showing up? Well, I don't know why, but somehow it got into the metadata for this article. What really ought to be there is the page range for the article. So although I could go ahead and copy paste that into my list of references, I would have to do a little fixing on it to make it correct. Another thing that you will often see as an error in these automated APA style helpers is the capitalization. So although the rest of this actually looks really good, the capitalization on the article title is wrong because we know that article titles are supposed to be in sentence case, not in title case as it is here. So They're good to get you started, these citation helpers, but you still need to know what a properly formatted citation will look like.